Okay, this is one of two Adam and Eve images. Would you like to just start? Tell us why you made it the way you made it.
Um, why did I? This is a more recent one, so the idea had kind of been uh, incubating longer, I suppose. But again, it's still the opposites at play. So kind of put Adam above because he's corresponding to spirit or the heavens, and her below. There's water, so there's also water above, right? Because in the story, there's like the splitting. There's the waters above and the water below. That's the biblical cosmology. Um, but he's sleeping, or his eyes are closed in this image, and she's holding um, this fruit, which is the same color as the snake coming down, um, and she's already awake. And I guess I'm just kind of stuck on that idea that she ate it before he did, and she still
Mhm.
gave it to him. Um,
Why do you why do you get stuck on that idea? Because we talked about that a bit before, and we'll talk about it more in the next image too. But
I
yeah,
just think
why?
that's wild. I don't
Mm.
know. It really the when I was going
She
through it
knew.
initially. Oh,
She like
did you
knew the
freeze?
outcome already.
Yeah, she was
Yeah.
already aware that you eat the fruit and something happens. I mean, something changed in like reality, right? When she
Mhm.
eats the fruit of good and evil, and then she goes up to somebody else and is like, "Here, I can't be alone with this." That's
Yeah.
that's kind of how I felt almost. It was like she learned something, and then she was like, "I gotta. It can't be just me."
Yeah.
Um, that's kind of my person. I mean, that's kind of a personal um, interpretation. It doesn't say anything about that, but I just was imagining like what that moment must have been like because um, he didn't know yet, and I don't know. That's just weird, but yeah, again, there's just the same elements, the above, below, masculine, feminine. They're really stylized and they didn't quite turn out how I would have liked, but there's four rivers sort of spilling out from the tree. You can kind of see the two in the back implied and two in the front. Those are the four rivers coming out of Eden. Um, Four is a really important number if you're into like Jungian psychology. It's the number of like wholeness. So and also that's just part of the story. Like if you look at other depictions of Eden, there's the four rivers. Um, yeah, I'm not sure what else to say about this one.
Can I say
Why
something?
was? Go
Yeah,
Sorry.
ahead, Lucas.
Well, we were talking about how you got stuck on the idea that she would still give him the fruit, and I think it has something to do with her sin, which is too much of a love of the edge, let's say. So the snake perhaps represents that, the margins. So I think
Hmm.
she didn't, perhaps she didn't give it to him with the idea that it was bad to give it to him. Perhaps she was like so enamored with that idea, um, of even the outskirts and the perhaps that she wasn't aware that it was a bad thing.
it
She's
could be.
already in sin, let's say. I don't know.
There's also I think Peterson talks about this at some point in the biblical lectures, but there's this thing about masculine, feminine, and um, he talks about how I don't know how he says it. Basically, that women make men conscious. Like they bring you a problem.
Self-conscious.
Yeah, they bring you a
Oh.
problem and men solve problems. So like women are like, we're cold, there's animals, eating our children, and the men are like, okay, like we're gonna come up with a
I didn't
solution
even
for
notice.
that.
Oh yeah, where is little Jimmy?
Yeah. Yeah, but the women are like they're busy, right? They have things to do. They can't be solving like just in this archetypal way at least, like, you have to kind of take it with a grain of salt, whatever. Doesn't matter, but men like are solving problems and women are bringing up the problems. So like even in a household, that's kind of how it happens. It's like this is broken and he's like, okay, I guess I gotta fix it this weekend. Like that's just like this recurring pattern. And so her getting the fruit, which is also like I believe Pajot, like one of the Pajots is talking about this recently, but I can't remember exactly how they phrase it. But she's like in touch with the animals and the earth and the things coming out of the earth, like from below, and emotions and things that are more unconscious, like women and the feminine is more in touch with that innately. So they're like bringing up problems to men, and but they get them first. Like the women get it first, or the feminine gets it first.
It's like sensitivity, like in
Yeah.
awareness, like yeah.
Right, and then you bring it to consciousness, and then he can like discriminate things. The
Bring it
masculine
to
can discriminate
consciousness, huh?
things. Yeah. Well, like, doesn't it happen all the time? I mean, like I'll just talk about myself. It's fine. I'll get emotional. I don't know what I'm upset about, and I have to go to my husband and be like, "I'm upset about this. I don't know why." And then he's like, "Okay, like, is it this? Is it this?" I'm like, "I don't know." I'm overwhelmed with something that's like unnameable, and
You
it's
have to like take
unconscious.
the ocean and like chop it to bits, kind of. It's like, okay, this
Yeah.
is, you can't think about all of this, so we're gonna like look at this little
Mm.
quadrant for 1 second, and be like, all right, what's going on here? What's going on here?
Right. Yeah, and so it's I guess that pattern too is kinda on my mind when making this, maybe both of the images that I made with this, but I think that's, probably just because too, like, she's already got the fruit, and I'm, like, coming from a feminine perspective, I'm like, "Whoa, that's where, like, the feminine side comes into this equation," right? Like, you get something, you don't know what to do with it, and you're like, "Here." But that doesn't have to be my, like, literal husband, that could be, like, something that comes up in me that's I don't know what it is, and I have to look at it and go like, "Okay, is it this? Is it this? Is it this?" So it can be, like an interpersonal thing, it could be an interpersonal thing, it plays out on all those levels.
You associated the masculine with the spirit, and I typically have associated the feminine with the spirit, like awareness and those sorts of things as being on the feminine side of that distribution. Like oftentimes I feel like it seems to me like from a Trinity perspective that like God, the Logos, that sort of thing is more of the masculine, and then like the Holy Spirit, like the moving, the awareness, the I don't know, that sort of thing is associated with feminine to me. But why? What's the masculine association with spirit to you?
Well, you're right, there is the Holy Spirit is associated with, like, Sophia.
Mhm.
I don't know if you guys could hear that or not. The
Yeah.
the Holy Spirit is associated with, like, Sophia, like, the dove has this kind of feminine quality that's I don't think it's, like, a dogmatic part of Christianity, but it's just an idea that people have maybe, but spirit not in the sense of the Holy Spirit, so not excluding like God the Father or the Logos, but spirit like in this duality of heaven and earth.
Yeah.
Like
Mhm.
heaven being spirit and earth being matter, like matter
Mhm.
even being the root word for mother, so spirit there
Right.
necessarily kind of being father. So um yeah, there's a lot of I don't even know how to describe that. It seems so fundamental that I'm not actually sure where I'm getting that, but it just feels like it's everywhere.
Yeah.
Um,
Mhm.
yeah, yeah. So spirit, I mean, is typically associated with the masculine side of things, or like intellect, all those kind of things. I think sometimes there's a feminine connotation, but it's like generally, broadly speaking, it's usually the masculine.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Is this tree supposed to look shroomy?
a little bit. Yeah, somebody
Because
told
it
me that
is.
afterward, and I was like, yeah, kind of does. It's a throwback to the other one.
Mhm.
To the other image with Adam and Eve, but
Should
I
should
also just kinda like I like the way it's kinda, I don't know, flowing a little bit, having that again, like the fractal or I don't know, the spiral pattern is just big for me.
It
Mhm.
looks like a
Mhm.
brain as well.
Yeah.
Is that purposeful?
Not super, but, afterward I look at it, I'm like, "Huh, it doesn't really look like a tree, maybe like a Dr. Seuss tree or something like that," but, um, yeah,
That's
it's not
awesome.
super it's not literal, I guess, or you know what I mean? It's not like taking photograph.
I don't know if you'll have more to say about it, but you posted shortly after Mathieu Peugeot had a talk about sleep and dreams. You posted
Yeah.
something about this image. Is there anything more you can say about that?
I have to say that I never finished that long talk of Mathieu Peugeot's, but he was talking about Eve being associated with sleep and dreaming, and that being, I believe, what did he call it? The something of renewal.
Yeah, renewal. The Language of
Yeah,
Renewal is
The Language of
gonna be the
Renewal.
name
Yeah.
of his book.
So he's always just on the edge of everything. He's so he's always on the margin of like nobody else is talking about that.
Yeah, but they
At
will
least
be.
Christians are not talking about that, and I love that. And I've always drawn Adam being asleep, so I was just like, it just hit like a nerve. I was like, oh, I have like 3 or 4 images of Adam and Eve kind of stuff, and he's always sleeping. I don't know why I do that. I'm just,
Mm.
it makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it does.
Next image.
Sure.
Next
Yeah.
image.
Adam and Eve continued.
The snake looks beautiful, by the way. Nice face on it.
Thank you.
He looks
There's a
like
tradition in medieval manuscripts or iconography where like he's a snake, but he has like a person face. They're always so weird, and I really like that.
yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Mm.
So this is the first Adam and Eve that I drew, and it was quite a while ago now. Maybe 2017. So I was just out of school, and I was trying to figure out this new like colored pencil weird thing I was doing. And I know you guys said this one was unsettling for you when you saw it, or
That's
it's
for me.
like it's
That's
a
for me.
weird image. Yeah. It's it unsettles me. I don't show it normally. I don't really like it. Like I look at it, I'm like, it makes sense, but I don't like it. But again, it's kind of this moment where I think it's supposed to be unsettling.
Mhm.
And I've got, she's got the snake because, she's just been talking to him. It's a mushroom just because, I don't know, it made sense at the time that this sort of like, in this non-literal way, that psychedelics are the same thing, is like, it's this knowledge that you're not really supposed to have. It's forbidden, it's taboo. It's also coming from below. So, like in the way that mushrooms sprout up from the earth, there's also that kind of idea. So there's like the snake, the tree, the fruit, the mushroom. It all kind of goes together. And I put them in water because they're still kind of unconscious. So that's why they're in the water. And yeah, and the eye back there is, when you're doing something wrong and you kind of know that you shouldn't be, there's that feel. It's like, I feel like
Yeah.
God is present going like, you better not, but she's doing it anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's why there's like this creepy eye in the back, because the eye also, there's this idea that people don't talk about anymore, where it's like the eye of providence, like the eye of God, instead of like the creepy Illuminati eye or whatever. I don't like that idea. But there's this idea of like the eye of God. So that is kind of what that's about back there.
And it is inside of a triangle.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's the only triangle in the entire. It's cool how you bring that together. No, I will say I wasn't unsettled by it at all. I actually really like it, which perhaps means that there's something psychologically wrong with me, I assume. But yeah, it's
Maybe you could just handle it,
Yeah. No, I just really like it. I love the style. I love the green eye. I mentioned to you, I don't know if it was offline, but this is the eye that I see when I meditate and I finally get to a moment of presence, the end of a yoga class perhaps. And yeah, it's mastery to put them in water. I think that's so cool. I just explained. I didn't even think about that. But yeah, it reminds me of, it's like a dystopian sci-fi movie taking place on a different planet, and something is about to go really wrong.
Mhm.
It does have that
Mhm.
feeling, yeah.
Yeah.
So I found it. You mentioned it being unsettling. I think I was the one that was like, okay, is this? We were trying to figure out what we wanted to do in this episode, and I found it unsettling. I said when we started, like I hate it, but I think it's like a great piece of art. You know what I mean? And only because like it, I don't know, something about this eye, and it speaks to the excellence of the art in a way, because this eye, you're drawn to it so intensely visually, and it's such like a deep stare from a single eye that you're able to communicate. And then when you guys were talking about the mushroom part of this. The fact that like there's I'm gonna go two different directions. There's something called the stoned ape theory. Have you guys ever heard of this before? I think it was
Yeah.
Terence McKenna that came up with it, right?
Yeah.
You know, that the idea that like if you were to look through an entirely evolutionary biological lens, sort of, that part of what there was something about, I think it was 100,000 or 200,000 years ago, that dramatically increased the speed. Let me know when I would say if, but when you guys lose me and I can go back.
You're still here. Yep.
Cool.
You're good.
It dramatically increased the speed of development of the brain. And so it looks like, there's a couple things. Part of that was the discovery of fire, and that was allowed Homo sapiens to allocate more energy away from their stomachs and to their brains, more blood flow when you're eating stuff that is raw or uncooked. It takes a lot more of your metabolic energy, your blood flow being sent to your stomach. And so there's theories that it's in part related to the human discovery and utilization of fire, but also there were these mushrooms growing up on the North African plains that, would come out of cow dung and things like that. And there's a lot of, if you look throughout mythology of many different cultures, there's a similar story at the base of this. I'm going to keep talking when I lose you guys. Sorry that I keep on noticing that, but
There's the mushroom thing. Yeah, actually, that makes sense. And that's kind of what I was thinking when I made this. This was a little while ago that I made this image. I wasn't like super into the idea, but I know what's out there. It's like this story that's out there, at least. It's definitely present. So, yeah, it's like the mushroom makes sense. It makes more sense than an apple in terms of just like the symbol of it, especially now that people are actually talking about psychedelics a lot. Like maybe 50 years, maybe not 50. Okay, maybe more than that. 100 years ago, that might not have been, wouldn't have made sense.
Interestingly enough.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, I guess it's something I kind of veered away from. That's why I never show this, because I'm like, is the mushroom too weird? Is the eye too weird? Like, this picture makes me uncomfortable. I made it. I don't like, it makes me uncomfortable. So, I just don't know what to do with it, but I wanted to show it just because I was like, this was part of the series that I did. And at the time that made sense. And yeah, so I didn't want to leave it out because it just seems like it is an unsettling part of the story. So maybe I shouldn't drop it.
Mm-hmm.
No, it's essential. No, like I feel it's like cutting out the dark scene from a movie. It's like we need that. Otherwise, what's there to do? But I love the idea of the mushroom because, and even connected to your stone ape theory you spoke about, in the sense that it radically increases knowledge, or like you realize the patterns that are going on in reality, and that opens up the decision to be good or bad with it. Before that, maybe perhaps we're just more natural by default, like animals are natural. You can't put a lot of morality on a tiger eating I don't know what tigers eat, but a lion eating a gazelle. And once you recognize the patterns, it's the same with like dark magic. You can also manipulate them in a sense, and that's where morality steps in. So
what do you mean it's the same thing as with dark magic?
Well, let's say the cautionary tale with magic or dark magic is like it's gonna fire back at you. And I think I spoke about magic recently with one of my guests. He had a couple of witches on this podcast. Which, if you want to know what a modern witch is, I'll just have to link his stuff down below. But we were talking about magic and trying to figure out what it exactly is and if there's good magic or bad magic. And I think bad magic is when you realize the patterns of reality and you realize your influence on them, and then you try to subject your own will to them. Like you try to use your own will to force an outcome, and that's where the karma comes in. So yeah, that's how that works. But I'm afraid Jake didn't get any of this. We'll see.
Yeah, he might have paused, but
frozen in time, or he's just holding the same facial gesture.
I'm sure it was such a good answer that you just gave me.
Oh,
it was a great point.
I heard some bits. Um, my buddy who I'm staying with on his farm, he was like, "Yo, I just canceled like one of the two Wi-Fi's that you had out there like 3 days ago or whatever." And I was like, "Oh, okay." And then the second one that I wasn't using is trash. So
Oh,
we'll figure
like
it
you
out
could get
before.
it. Yeah, that's the
That's
tragedy.
okay. It happens. We're
It does.
talking across like half the entire world, so like the
Yeah,
fact
we
that we
should be
can do that.
grateful. What are we
Yeah,
complaining about?
I'm grateful for the freezing. Yeah,
It's like, is it a wise thing to be grateful for evil? It's like, yeah, well, in a sense, yes. So let's be grateful for all the
For
latency
the
issues.
the
This is what
glitches
makes us
too.
grateful for all of the great technology that does work for us, this
Yeah,
infuriating.
we do work for them, Jake. You gotta
Imagine if
realize.
we were all out dancing and then just there was a DJ that just was like hitting pause every like 23 seconds. It's like, okay.
Basically what's happening. Yeah.